it's going to, you might get a pop-up button asking you to acknowledge that it's okay.
Mhm.
And we will put this, we'll see if we can get Cheryl to give us a place to put it on the, post it on the website, the Cuba page of the website. But anyway, we are recording now and continue.
Okay. Pat, next item will be finance.
Okay, I'm going to share. Okay, where to go? I forgot to send a report out to you all. We have met with Nancy Cox, who is taken over as the finance chair for the finance manager for Central Florida Presbytery, and she has done a Herculean task of going through the files, and we were able to reconcile all the accounts for Cuba. And we now have good numbers, we agree, and we've got a process for going forward. So this has been a process, but here we have this is a summary that in the transportation fund we have, and this is as of, I should have put that in date here. I think it's end of June. We currently have $5,000, $5,100 in the transportation fund that's left over from what we took down. The receipts were partly because, if you remember, we had sent money to the Cuba Partner Network last year, I believe it was last year, they wanted to they were going to transfer a whole bunch of money down to Cuba, and they could not get through the process. It was just dragging on and on and on. And when we had people going down to Cuba, we asked that money be returned so we could carry it with us. So part of the receipts here is that amount, and the same thing for the Cuba Leadership Fund. But anyway, we have $5,171 in the Cuba Transportation Fund, which is a good start for next year.
Pat,
Yes.
does that reflect the additional money that Ken, weren't the additional parts, Ken, like $1,800? Is that after that?
It is right here.
Okay. Wow.
It says this is as of 6:30. Yes, that's good.
Okay.
We have water treatment fund. This is to support the Paraíso Obrero filters and things for Paraíso Obrero, which we took over from Burke. That's holding steady at $667. We haven't drawn from it recently. Leadership training fund, we have about $6,800. Again, part of this was the I believe we may have had a few. No, everything here is what came back from Shepherd of the Valley, from what we had sent to the partnership fund. So, but that's still a good start for this year. And the Cuba Partnership Fund, that is our miscellaneous fund. That's where we put money when we come back from a trip. We have money left over. We put it in the partnership fund. And the original intent of this fund was to be able to cover the costs of Cubans when we bring them up to the United States, to cover their visas, their transportation, the housing, things like that, or to bring guest speakers in like Joella. We brought her in as a regional representative. That has, we have a current balance of $3,300 in that. And the Lamosi Fund is a trust that was given to the Presbytery as a legacy from someone. And the Presbytery at the time this was created decided to designate it all for the Cuba Partnership Fund. So in our early days, we drew from it to help bring the Cubans up. Since then, we've been able to take care of it. We've been kind of holding this in reserve for emergencies. We did take something from it last year, I think, to help with Cuba. And then we do have a budget as part of a budget line item under mission development, which is $3,000, and we have spent $1,150 of that. $1,000 of it goes to mission agency to support the regional representatives, Jose Manuel and Bill Marie. And then 150 of it goes to the Cuba Partner Network for our dues as a presbytery. So we have 1850 left in that, and this we need to spend by the end of the year or it disappears. It's a budget line item. The rest of these are funds they carry out. Any questions?
Yes, the 11,000 disbursement.
On the partnership fund?
Yes,
Okay. That was 9,200 to John Potter when he to carry to El Centro in March, and 1,800 to you to reimburse you for money that you donated when you were down there.
right. But I think that's the key point is a lot of that money was for the transportation and the question, and that was given back in or that was set aside in 2001. And so the question is should that have come out of the Cuba Partnership Fund, or should some of it have come out of the transportation fund?
We, at the time we designated this, we took it all out of the partnership fund because we did not have money in the transportation. If we go back to the transportation, this is everything that's we had at the beginning of this year, we had $3,200. And you can see we spent money we sent $10,000 for bus parts that we didn't have because we knew it was coming in from the other network. We received, this is the money from the Partners Fund. So we didn't have,
Toby,
if we wanted to send that money down,
no.
it had to come from the partnership fund. And we decided, can someone go on mute? Pets are wonderful, but they do interrupt meetings. We did not have the money to send down, so it had to come from the partnership fund. Now, if we wanted to, we could reimburse the partnership fund, but I'm not sure there's a real good reason to do that. The reason the partnership fund was a tricky fund because for a while, Nina was putting, our former finance manager was putting all the money for the Cuba trips, which we usually kept in a separate account, into the partnership fund. And she was reporting the income, but she was not reporting the disbursements. So it looked like, we've been spending money out of that, and it was not recorded. So that's part of it. If you go back to the 2021 report, which I can bring up if you want to see it, we had to reconcile all that. So I guess it's up to the team whether you want to take some of that money take some of the money that is currently in the transportation fund and move it to the partnership fund.
Well, here's my only thinking, the reason I brought it up is, we're going to continue, I am sure, to support their transportation needs.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need that for support for their bus, for, their vehicles, that the pastors have, whether it's buying new tires, the repairs that are needed to those vehicles. I mean, they desperately need money for that because, for example, when they buy tires, they're clearly not buying new tires for those vehicles. They're buying, retreads, and they're still extremely expensive. And we're going to be trying to raise the money. And full disclosure would be is that when we tell, we've always been able to raise essentially the amount of money that we needed. And I just hate to overstate the money that we already have set aside for transportation, which to a major extent would be the case because we've taken it out of our general Cuba Partnership Fund. And the same thing for the, the leadership training. I mean, we've never given $6,800 for their lay leadership training needs. It's usually been more in the $3,000 or $4,000 range.
No, it's
Um,
been five. We gave,
5 once?
we gave five and we gave six. One year we gave more for leadership than we did for transportation
Okay,
at their.
but I just, we're going to want to raise, a good, probably for that trip in November, or excuse me, in March, as well as, and I'm going to bring this up later, the trip in that I'm taking in November. We're going to want to raise money for that. And well, something, let's first make a decision about how much you all might want me to take in November, because that's going to be, what, 4 months before the other trip. And clearly, they have needs for the lay leadership training and transportation needs over and above the money we've sent them. I mean, basically, all the money we've given them is for the bus. We essentially, in the last 2 years, haven't really given them any money for other transportation needs. Isn't that essentially right, Ken?
Yes.
And we have not given them anything for leadership training over the past 2 years. So this does reflect.
Right.
Needs to
So
come in.
you know something,
Years.
let's talk, we can talk about this because we're going to need to make a decision whether or not our group wants to send some money down with me in November for those 2 programs for them, recognizing we have told them within the last year that we're giving them the authority, or their council the authority to allocate those funds however they deem appropriate.
Now, if we send money down with you in November, is that going to count against the 2023, our 2023 funding, or is it going to be in addition to what we've already done this year?
Well, my opinion, it should be in addition, because once again, we've given them no money for their transportation needs outside of the bus. And we know they have it. They're reluctant to ask because of the amount of money that we have given. It's just not in their nature. It may have been more in the nature of Erdeberto, but I don't think it's the nature of the leadership team that's there now. And my view is we ought to be asking them, do they have needs for transportation outside the bus? And we know the answer is going to come back yes. We know it is. And so if I was able to take down $5,000, for example, for transportation, and 2,000 or 3,000 for lay leadership training, it would make a huge difference to them for work that they need to do now. And that 2023 will be in addition to that for the needs that they're going to have for the next year.
Okay, but
That's just my thought.
yeah, we haven't set a date yet for 2023, but I think, at least I am, leaning towards early in the year. Are we going to be able to raise very much money by, let's say, March the 1st?
Well, we've always been pretty successful in the past. I mean, if you think about it, churches and individuals have really stepped up. And to me, the timing to do it would to start just as we've done before in October and November, because a number of the churches, their mission committees have certain undesignated funds that they are going to allocate in the final 2 months of the year, and they might allocate some of it to this. And so we could start building up money in that, at that time.
I think we need to start now, September, because September and October is when churches do prepare their budgets. And even if, yes, there are folks who will be looking to spend money at the end of the year, and that's great. But there are also folks who will need to budget for next year. And then once they've budgeted, they often give it to us right at the beginning of the year, especially if there's a trip. So the sooner the better.
And they could tell us if, we got in touch with the, Rayleigh and Marialis and Marlin. If we ask them, tell us about over and above the bus, what your transportation your needs are, they would answer that. And so you could put some of those specifics in the flyer that goes out. We could talk about, here's what we did, but it was all for the bus, and here are the needs that they have. And we need to, we're going down, we're planning a trip in March, and, we want to be able to deliver funds, to meet these other needs as well.
So the $1,850 that will go away, we need to send that too.
That's correct. And that $1,850 is part of the money that I could take when I go in November.
Absolutely.
So excellent point, Kathy. So, but Pat, I agree with you. Starting in September as opposed to October, November is the right thing to do.
I think the sooner the better. Yes. I know Java is really trying to finalize their budget by the end of August. So,
Wow, kudos to you guys.
yeah, yeah. I'm not involved in that process, but just being on the committee, that was the goal that a committee was given to get it in by August the 1st.
So the first step would be to get in touch with, the three of them that we talked about, and asking them what their needs are in the transportation area for the rest of this year and what they envision they might be for next year. And the same thing on the lay leadership training. Because as you know, most of our trips have been in January or February, and that's when we usually take the funds with us.
Mm-hmm.
This one won't be until March, more than likely, but.
Okay, who's going to take the action to contact them? And also to get one step at a time.
And get what? What was the other thing?
One step at a time. I want to just, who's going to take the action to contact the leadership down there, Mary Alice, Marlon, Rayleigh?
I can do it, but I would have to do it in English. And I know that Mary Alice and I don't think Riley speaks English. So if someone did it in Spanish, it might be better.
Well,
I could translate for you, Ken.
Okay. All right. Edwin, while you spoke up, Edwin, just
no, it's was that Edwin? Okay.
Yeah, I thought it may have been Jose Edwin or Edwin Jose, but
No, it's Edwin. What happens is
I knew Edwin. Okay.
and the computer is on his name. That's why it shows Jose Silva.
Thank you for clarifying that. I was going to ask you if you were related to this Edwin Silva because you're coming down on one of the trips. It's hard to say. Okay, so you'll contact them and Edwin will help with translation.
Now, Ken, the problem is I'm going to be in Europe for the whole month of September.
All right.
So
Well,
we need to make the call before I leave.
Well,
On August 31st.
Okay. All right.
or
I'll get
Ken,
something written in the next day or two.
Okay.
And once
Or
it comes
Ken,
back,
you
I
can
can-
always contact Danny as well. Danny
Yes,
Barrios.
And I can translate what they send back, no problem.
okay. Okay. I
Okay,
made
so that's-
myself a note.
Okay, so that's the first, you're gonna contact them. The second thing. Oh dear, what was it? Oh, we do much better when we have stories to tell of how the money's been used in the past. Now, I saw some exchanges earlier this year from, was it from Mary Ellis or someone it's talking about how things have been used, but we need to update, we need to get our stories that we can put in the fundraising literature of what it's people contribute, are much more willing to contribute when they know concretely what it's done in the past, instead of just saying give to transportation. Well, last year we provided this, this, and this, and this year we need this, the need with this, and this will help. We need that for both leadership and transportation.
And in fact, Ken, you want to put that in the same email.
Right, yes.
Yes, you want to ask about that as well. And also you want to ask them if they've had any lay leadership training programs, this year that you can talk about. Again, specific programs that they might have with what they're dealing with right now, with transportation and even before the fire, the tremendous shortage that they've had of gas and diesel. They may have been hard pressed. And of course, their bus, how much they've been able to use their bus has been in question too.
Yeah. And I've not heard anything back yet about the bus repairs, about that engine rebuild. So
Well, you can ask about that.
yes, yes.
All those things, as Pat said, are extremely valuable in putting in these notices and what a difference it's made to what they've been able to accomplish.
Okay, anything else? Do we want to wait until later to talk about what we're going to do with whether we're going to send any of this money down in November, or do we want to tackle that now?
Let's tackle it now, since we just talked about it and it's a little fresher in our minds.
First question is, Randy, do you want to take the money that was in transportation and put it back into the partnership fund to partially repay that amount we sent back, which we could take as much as we want, potentially zeroing out that balance?
Well, the first question is maybe how much do we want,
What are our goals?
Yeah, do we want to send? I mean, I think we're probably all in agreement that we're going to send that $1,850.
Yes.
That's left.
Yeah.
How much do we want to send from the other two accounts? I mean, keeping in mind, whatever money we spend, they desperately need, with inflation accelerating like it is, in their country. As you know, since the official exchange rate for dollars was what, 25 or 24, pesos. That official exchange rate's now essentially 125, as I understand it. They've now made it a more market rate. The reason the Cuban government's done that is there were dollars coming into the country that weren't going through their system. All the transactions were taking place on the, as we have been asked to say, the alternative market. And the government wanted to capture that. And so they realized they needed to start paying a market rate. And so, for example, we can now, it's now appears that we're taking dollars. John Potter, who's the past co-convener of the network, he's down there right now, and he took $30,000 of all that money, remember, that had been given for the Synod, and he took it in dollars, not in euros, because they are perfectly happy to have dollars now, again.
Well, I propose we don't zero out either of the funds, because it's nice to be able to say we have a seed money. What if we took 4,000 out of transportation and 4,000 or 5,000 out of leadership trainings, and we haven't said anything about, and then that would leave about a little over $1,000. But it leaves somewhere between 1,000, 1,500 in each one is seed money.
Okay, and let Randy take that in November.
Randy plus someone else, it's a little bit more than 5,000, but you
Yeah.
can find someone to carry it.
You know, actually, I don't worry about that anymore. As I said, when I went in February, I took $16,000, declared it. They didn't say anything. John Potter just took over $30,000.
They want the dollars.
And you know, they don't say one word about it, because they're happy that money's you know, coming into the country. How about this? 4,000 from transportation, 4,150 from the leadership training, and then with that $1,850, it's exactly $10,000.
Okay, so you're saying 4,000 from transportation, from leadership training, 4,100,
4,150.
4,150.
And then the $1,850 that remains in the you know, from the operating funds in the presbytery budget.
Okay,
So then it's an even 10,000.
Randy, do you tell them that you're bringing $10,000, or do you just put it in your pocket and go on through?
No, oh no, no, I'm going to write it down. That's
Oh,
what I
okay.
did before. I wrote the 16. No, I decided I am not going to try to go into the country. So everything I took in when I went in February, I had phones, I had other things. You know, I listed them. They didn't say anything.
Well, I just wanted to make sure you were safe.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to I'm not going to try to hide anything.
Good, good.
I guess if you list it, the worst can happen is they will fine you some amount, but they won't confiscate the extra.
Again, I'll be talking to John
Yeah.
Potter when he gets back. There was another group going down in, and they took, you know, much larger sums, you know, just in the last, you know, couple weeks. Hasn't been an issue of late at all.
Good.
Okay. Now, do we need a motion
I think it'd be good.
that summarizes all of this?
Yes, the motion is do just that, to send $10,000, which is coming, 1,850 coming from the budget line item, 4,000 from transportation, and 4,150 from lay leadership training to be carried by Randy in November.
Okay, there's a motion. We have a second. Somebody speak
I'll
up.
second it.
Okay, very good. Is there any discussion on it? Any more discussion? If not, then all in favor, wave at the camera. Looks like everybody unanimous. So that's the plan.
So my plan will be to let them know we're bringing this. You know, I don't want to just show up with it, but Ken, when you're sending that email, as I said, that information about, you know, it's not just about their needs next year. It's, you know, what needs they have, you know, towards the end of this year as well, because if they knew money was coming to help for vehicle repairs and things such as that, or any lay leadership training that they're looking at, it would make a significant difference to them.
Okay, so I should include something about that in my,
No,
oh,
you're not going to tell them about the 10,000. You're going to be asking them about their needs.
okay, yes, that I understood, but you don't want me to mention that you will be bringing some funding with you.
I think what should be done is when you get responses,
Yeah,
so that they're not thinking we've done this in advance, that we're doing this in response to their needs.
okay, okay. All right. I can do that.
All right, any other questions on finance?
If not,
You,
thank you, Pat. And next thing on the agenda is report on the Cuba Partners Network from Randy.
The gathering, the encuentro, will take place as planned, November 10th to 12th at the seminary. There was some discussion as to whether or not they would still want to host it at the seminary, because this fire took place about 6 miles from the seminary. We've had extensive discussions with the leadership, and they badly want the encuentro to take place. They want us to come. They're ready to, they are ready to host it. So that's what we're going to do. There are a few people that have dropped out. So I think we are down to 32 people that are going for the encuentro, rather than 40. We were at 40 at one time, but there are some people that I think made the decision that they thought we were putting too much strain on them for 40 people. I think it's important for all of us, as we're talking about our future trips, that Dora, who is the General Secretary, for the Synod, she told us during our steering committee meeting last Tuesday evening, steering committee meeting for the network, she said about 80 people have come so far this year from different churches. She said, it actually is easier on us when 40 people come at once. And so don't think you are putting excessive strains on us by having that many people come. So it is a fluid situation, as you well know. They are dealing with blackouts now, Santa Spiritus. The blackouts are as long as 12 hours. I know at Kamawani, they at Remedios. Just spoke with the Saturday before last with the group from Myers Park Pres, who were down there, and they'd had since they left, because they left like 2 weeks ago, yesterday or today, to come back to the U.S. That they're having rolling 6-hour blackouts. They're having two 6-hour blackouts a day in Remedios right now. A lot of that as a result of the fire and their reduced fuel that's available in the country. So it's just, you don't know what it's going to be, and something could happen between now and November and we don't go. I think that's highly unlikely, because this fire had a significant impact. So the encuentro is still taking place. The network is doing a lot of work to we've established a mutuality committee that includes both leaders from their general council and a leadership team here. We're working on that. We're working on getting more information about partners out. a lot of advocacy work that's going on. I think some of you probably are on that list. And so you see, hopefully all of you are on the list to receive emails, blasts from the Cuba Partners Network. If you're not, you should be, because there's a lot of great information that goes out from the Cuba Partners Network. If you are not, if you will just simply send me an email, I will make sure that you are added to the list to get these email blasts that, usually there's at least 2 or 3 a month, something like that, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending upon the situation, of what's going on. One of the email blasts that has gone out is Presbyterian Disaster Assistance is working down there, and the network is encouraging churches and individuals to make contributions to PDA. In the email blasts that have gone out, there's a specific number that you can give for that's been established by PDA. And so they are at work there, getting funds, to assist them, as a result of, the needs they have because of the fire. I guess that's it, unless anyone has any questions about the work of the network and what's going on. Okay.
Okay. Any questions, Brandy? Then we'll move on to church-to-church relationships. Edwin, can you want to give a brief summary of the trip back in June and conditions and what's happening in Kamawani?
Okay. Yeah, the trip to Cuba was a blessing. Everything was well coordinated. Our goals were met. I brought 2 big briefcases of medicine, and they were very grateful for the medicines. We also brought money and parts for the repair of the bus. In my case, the Church of Redentor, we established a formal partnership with the Church of Camajuani in Cuba. Both churches are highly motivated, and we expect a lot of results from that relationship. In particular, right now, what are their needs? Right now, I'm worried a little bit about Marieli. Marieli doesn't have transportation. So every time she finished church, and she works very long hours. So she goes back home at night. She has to walk a whole bunch of blocks right through downtown in the dark to get home alone, which is very dangerous. And she has a little motorcycle, but that motorcycle is broken and cannot be repaired. So that's one transportation thing that I would like to mention. I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Coco, do you want to report a little bit on your trip?
All right. Just to bring everybody up to speed, Tawasco has a new pastor, Fernando, and his wife, Roxana. And the big news there is Roxana is now 10 weeks pregnant with a new baby. And so things are excited there. He's also pastoring at Iguara and Menendez, in addition to Tawasco. I spoke with him last night, and the latest from him that I said I need to share with this group, they have bought the submersible turbine for the well, and they're going to have to check if the water can undergo the purification. They've sunk a well in front of the church right off the main street. So that's their project right now, is to get potable water. It's a work in progress. In July, had a very successful 3-day vacation Bible school for the children, had over 40 children. What they did, for those that are not aware, we'd been down there on Friday. One of our members came down with COVID, tested positive, and that put a lot of a curveball into a lot of the activities that they had previously planned. We suggested, should we leave? Do you want us to go back home? And they were emphatic. No, you stay. We will work around the COVID. So we had individuals that had to quarantine, this, that, and the other. But we were successful in taking large amounts of medicine. Our big concern was for Norma, who is suffering from breast cancer and was unable to get the medicines that she needed. We were able to do it. So we took a lot of medicines down. It was Christmas. It was Christmas in June when we were there. The fabrics, the medicines, the things for arts and crafts and whatnot, very well received. Let's see, they had a marriage 2 weekends ago on Saturday. Fernando had a marriage ceremony on the following day on Sunday. They had a baptism. Their children's ministry is entitled Growing in Faith, and they are just I get goosebumps when I'm around them now. They're excited. Their outreach for the elderly is still going well. Other than the fact that we had COVID, Randy talked about the rolling brownouts. We suffered from the brownouts, but catch-22 on the positive side, we knew when the brownout was going to occur. They would say, okay, at 2 o'clock, you're going to lose power for 6 hours. So you kind of prepare. Okay, all right, we got to do this, this, and this before 2 o'clock. So they do give you some heads up, but Fernando has said that the blackouts are increasing in lengths of time and duration. They are also increasing in the amount of frequency because of the problem there with the fire. So, but other than that, you know, the COVID is still there, but not as prevalent as it was. Very few people were wearing masks. So it was all in all, to me, a positive trip, other than that little rascal COVID. Well, when we got home, 6 of the 7 of us tested positive for COVID. And so we brought it back with us. So we took it from Cuba, but whatever. But I'm done. But that, you know, Roxy and Fernando are doing a great job down there.
Coco, do you know Fernando's last name?
Oh boy, I can find it. I'll let you know. It's one of those Lopez, Garcia, Hernando, blah, 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 you know. I call him Big Papi now.
Did they have any positive tests for COVID among their people, church membership?
Not while we were there, but in retrospect, after we had left, both Fernando and Roxy both tested for COVID, tested positive. So, I mean, you know, it's still there, and I don't know as far as the inoculation, immunization process that they go through. All of us had all our shots and we'd all been boosted. I mean, sometimes I wonder, you know, what's happening, but yeah.
With those brownouts, do most people cook with gas?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had guests. It wasn't a biggie. It was, granted, it's June, right? So if you don't have the AC pumping, it gets a little toasty. So yeah, that was a negative aspect of it too.
Okay. Any questions of Coco? Pat, did you have a?
So I think we talked about maybe taking a trip in the new year, and maybe Mary can talk about that. But I think we decided that we would take our own trip to Tabasco as opposed to joining with the bigger group. You have to unmute, Mary. Mary, you have to unmute.
I'm in the church office, so I'm trying to keep it quiet. Yes, we had talked about that and we were looking at a trip in March. I know that there is another church going to Tabasco February 13th through the 23rd, so we want to avoid that. But
So-
that's,
So you're going to prefer to take your own trip rather than join the Presbyterian trip in March?
well, that was the decision, that was the discussion.
Mhm.
Unless from what you said earlier, that was harder on them or in some way, that would not be a good thing.
One of the disadvantages of that is transportation costs. When you've got a larger group, the transportation costs go down because you're combining with others, and it may make it easier for their bus. This is something to ask them if they have to have the bus make one trip to and from wherever instead of one trip for the big group and one trip for the small group. So that's a factor.
Yeah.
But other than that, was there a particular reason you wanted to go separately? Because we're not planning an encuentro this time.
Yeah. I don't know, Coco, what did, Kathy, what did we say?
My biggie, can we, Lord, please, Lord, God, listen to my prayer. Can we go back to flying into Santa Clara? Now
We
there's
hope
a
to do
thought.
so. We have word that the airlines are starting to go back to Santa Clara, and that's gonna be make a big difference for us.
For me personally, physically, I'm going to be turning 80. I'm not bragging about it, but that 7 to 8 hour bus ride is horrendous on old people like me.
Well,
It,
just so you know, in November, I'm flying into Havana because our encuentro, the network gathering is at the seminary. And then I'm going down to Santa Spiritus afterwards. And again, it's not a strain on their transportation because there will be a number of people from El Centro Presbytery, including the pastor at Santa Spiritus, who will be on the bus and attending the gathering at the seminary. So I'll go back to Santa Spiritus. And then on the following Thursday, I'm flying from Santa Clara back to the
Beautiful.
United States. So they are having now, American has 2 flights a day from Santa Clara to the US.
all right, well, see that
Woo!
would push me back. Man, I just
Yeah.
do not like that long bus ride.
I haven't
That's the
seen,
additional overnight we need for in at least one direction.
yeah, I haven't seen JetBlue do anything yet. Because that's, what we've flown on before. So that's why I went ahead and booked on American, and Southwest is not flying in there. They're just I'm flying down on Southwest from, actually I'm flying out of Orlando. And in fact, I'm coming back. I'm flying from to Miami, change planes, and then I'm flying into Orlando.
Cool.
And I think the cost of the Southwest trip is was $216, and the cost on the flight back from Santa Clara, and then this is to Orlando, not Fort Lauderdale. The cost was $261
Well, that would-
one way.
But we would definitely want to do what made things easier for them.
It will make that dramatically easier for them for us to go in and out of Santa Clara.
Oh, heck
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
JetBlue is going through a merger right now. They're beginning to do a merger with Spirit, I believe. So they may be focusing their resources on that rather than on Cuba, but I would expect them to. They had so many flights before, I would expect that they would
Right,
try to get them back again. They may just be getting FAA approval.
right. They have to get that approval, and American was able to get that, and Southwest were able to get it fairly quickly. And maybe JetBlue hasn't tried. I don't know.
So Southwest is flying out of Cuba, but just not out of Santa Clara?
That's correct. Southwest, I'm going down Orlando to Fort Lauderdale, and then Fort Lauderdale to
Havana.
Havana, and I'm going on Southwest. And as I said, it was about $220 for the one-way ticket. And I'm interested in seeing, I don't know if I get to take two bags for free, because as we know, that's a significant savings.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but apparently you may not take bags based on what I've read on Southwest over 50 pounds. Because I know when I went in February, on American, one of my two bags, you could take up to 70 pounds and you pay an extra $100. And I had so many over-the-counter medications and flashlights and things like that Santa Spiritus asked me to bring, that my suitcase weighed 69 pounds. But what the notice I received from Southwest said, no bag over 50 pounds.
And Coco, we will
If you
definitely,
take 3 bags, you can take a third one and pay for it.
Right.
yeah,
Becomes worth it.
we will
Oh,
definitely.
yeah, they wouldn't, oh, wait. American, you could not take a third bag.
I remember you saying that.
I was
but-
willing to take a third bag, and it was gonna cost, because it was like $200, but then they said, no, to Cuba, you may not take a third bag.
Yeah. That was what they told us for the June flight. We flew American, and positively could not take a third bag.
Right.
And Coco, we will definitely use Santa Clara anytime we can. It was not our choice to use Havana. That's all we
Yeah.
could do.
Okay.
But yeah, we will. If it were possible, we will use Santa Clara.
And it will
Beautiful.
save a fair amount of money, because you're only paying for transportation to Santa Clara,
Like,
not to and from Havana,
yeah.
which is significantly more expensive.
Yeah, and the Cubans quote us a flat fee for the bus. It doesn't matter whether there's 10 people or there's 20 people, so if you can divide the bus transportation by 20, it's a lot better than dividing it by 10.
Yeah. I got it.
And more than likely, they will tell us, particularly if we're not having an encuentro, that, if our group size is 30 people, I think I suspect, based on all the comments they've made before, is they're going to be fine with that, because just so you know, I'm looking at taking a group from Graceway to Santa Spiritus. And, that may be 6 or 8 people, going there. And right now, my plan is to do it at the same time as, our Presbytery-wide trip.
Generally, as long as we don't overwhelm the individual churches, it's not, a
Right.
problem. It's when we have an encuentro, it becomes an issue. Total numbers becomes an issue, but if we're not having an encuentro, as long as we don't overwhelm the individual churches, it's good.
And just so everyone knows, and I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, we're talking about the next trip, but the reason we're not having an encuentro is because we're going to be going back to alternating with Baltimore Pres. And since we had an encuentro in early 2020, it's their turn. And it's too much on the Cubans to have 2 encuentros in a short period of time. Where, we go someplace and, for a few days. And so It's Baltimore Press's time. They've said they want to do it. And so doesn't mean we won't get together with their general counsel, but it will probably be at one of the churches where, we're going, council members will come in to meet with us. We're not going to be going for a 2 or a 3-day encuentro someplace. That would probably take place in 2024.
And we do have input from some of our travelers in the past that they prefer to go down without an encuentro so they can spend more time at their
Right.
at the partner church. So it balances out.
Okay. Anything else? All right, Pat, did you hear any or get any feedback from First Bureau?
No,
So we
no,
don't,
I do know that they are looking for they have an APNC looking for an associate pastor. And one of the roles of that, part of the job description of that associate pastor is to be on missions and leading being involved in the Cuba partnership.
That's
So
great. That's great news. That's one of the responsibilities of
yes,
the
the associate pastor.
yeah,
Great.
it is good to know that it is in their formal plans anyway.
And that was Michael's role. He was the associate pastor. So they took that and said, okay, this is part of it. So we'll contact them and see if we can't get some contact. They're working on.
Okay.
And hopefully the new associate pastor will want to communicate with the Cuba
Yeah.
partnership team.
We
Yeah.
will work on that.
That would be a nice change.
Yes.
Okay. Randy, you've already talked a little bit about Sanctus Spiritus, but did you want to add anything?
No, as I said, I've got the trip going. I'll be going there again. I'll be going there myself in November. I'll be joined by someone who's a member at First Pres Springfield, Illinois. Their church has a partnership with Sanctus Spiritus. He's going to the network gathering. So he and I are going to be there at the same time. Their new pastor is doing a great job. Her communication is off the charts. Of course, I get the pictures and other things I get through WhatsApp are unbelievable. They're in Spanish. So I must admit, I don't read all of them because doing a cut and paste, just takes a while to do it. But it is the church is doing it's doing real well under their new leadership.
And when I met her in June, she seemed very interested and a very nice person, and so she seemed like she would be successful there.
Carlos, the president of the seminary, told me off to the side she was a bright star at the seminary, and he said, "You are extremely fortunate that she is at Sanctus Spiritus."
Mhm.
And
So,
just what's her name?
her name is goodness gracious. Her name is I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
I don't know why I can't
Many
think of it.
changes that we used to know who was where, and there've been so many changes. We've heard just little spots.
Goodness.
Senior moment, Randy. It's a senior moment.
Look at what's that.
I'll give it to you. Go ahead.
Okay.
So I'm done.
Pat, did you want to say anything about Pineda?
I have, Panita has, we have maintained some WhatsApp contact with Iwara Meneses. Not a lot, but we have we have been told that Iwara is been reduced to the mission status instead of a full church status, which means they were no longer able to keep up their financial responsibilities to the presbytery most likely, but they always have been have been small. And I know the pastor from Tawasco shows up, I guess, once a month to give them to provide communion, but I haven't heard much else. We did hear some exciting news that the daughter, one of the daughter of Milagros at Iwara, who was our translator one time when we were down there, has been in Ecuador with her husband for a number of years for Cuba. And they recently were able to immigrate into the United States through, they got tourist visas to go to Mexico. And from Mexico, they were able to fly into Miami and come through customs, whether it's I don't know if they still have that business of Cubans are given special permission or whatever, but anyway, they sent me photos in the customs area, and it was very obvious. And they were very excited about being in her family. So just encouraging.
Okay, hey, Pat, you ready? I got last names
Okay.
since Randy don't know
Oh,
squat.
now I know. I looked it up.
All right. Fernando's last name is Lopez, Lopez.
Okay.
And Roxana, last name is Gonzalez, Gonzalez.
Okay.
Uh-huh, now you know. Go, Randy.
No. The pastor is Adriana. And it's spelled, you pronounce it Adriana, but it's Adriana. And her last name is Guerrero, Guerrero.
Thank you.
Okay. With
So let me just say,
with-
that means we're down to 11 churches in El Centro. There's 2, what do they call them, Pat, now?
Missions.
Missions.
It used
So
to
we,
be, and Crucijada, I believe is the one,
yeah,
and
So-
Ibarra the other.
there used to be 13, we're down to 11. And I will pass along that the churches that don't have partnerships anymore, which includes
Kabarian.
Cabarian, that had a partnership with North Lake, are extremely anxious to have partnerships.
Yes.
We should be, are we thinking of this trip in our spring trip? Are we going to be trying to recruit folks who will visit 1 or 2 churches to explore partnerships? In other words, not just have returnees, but new folks.
Absolutely.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
Fully. Yeah, it needs to be a Presbytery wide trip, and we need to publicize and try to recruit from everyone in the Presbytery. So yes, hopefully we can do that.
I wonder, just thinking about that, it's a little bit out of time, but if it would be helpful to have someone who has been to Cuba before, even if they have not partnered with those particular churches, to go along with them, so they're not totally brand new. You know, it is a little bit, it can be overwhelming to be dropped into a new church when you don't know anybody and you don't even know it's your first time in Cuba, and having someone else there as kind of from the Presbytery as a host might be something we could think about.
Yeah.
You know, Pat, I think part of that may depend upon which church they're going to.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to Cabarian, Edilberto's church, who's been moderator, who's
Mhm.
been general secretary, who is, very outgoing, and kind of, knows the ropes. Going there, I don't think they need someone, because Edilberto is so used to dealing with them. But
Mhm.
maybe a new one of the other churches where a pastor hasn't been there very long, or something such as that might be, somewhere like Sagua, or
Sagua?
something like that. I think that makes
The other
sense.
Sagua.
Yeah.
Sagua and the other Sagua, I forgot. Yeah. Even Placetas.
Right. Of course, Placetas now has, well,
They
It's
have
the same-
partnerships that's not with El Centro.
That's
But
right.
For a while, they were coming across as too needy and scaring people off.
Right. Right.
Are they back in their church, their actual church building now, or are they still in a temporary?
When I was there did you all go by there on your trip in June?
No,
Well, when I was there in February, their sanctuary was definitely not complete. They had made some progress.
Yeah.
But they had, in fact, there was clear progress that had been made. But I will find out from, that's where John Potter
Yeah.
is right now. And I will write myself a note to call John and I'll get an update from him.
I'm sure COVID put a big halt, a big slowdown on that reconstruction,
Right.
Mhm.
just from not being able to get together, from people, the labor shortages, and parts of materials are even worse.
Right.
Okay. All right. From the standpoint of Wekiva, I think overall we had a good trip. We were the last people to visit Remedios before the COVID shutdown, and the first to visit Remedios after it opened up again. People were glad to see us. We took a lot of medicines. They were glad to have that. The second day there, before we had presented the over-the-counter medicines to the church, somebody came to my room and asked if I had an aspirin he could have. And of course, I had plenty of them. So as I was looking for a bottle, he said that they had not been able to buy painkillers for the last 3 months. Just to show you what the shortage is. We were also told that they had not been able to buy pork since last November.
By what?
Pork.
Pork. I heard
Pork.
PRT, and it didn't make sense.
Oh, no, pork. So, that's how bad the food shortage is. And chicken had been hard to get. And Jesus told me that they were getting chicken from the US. And a couple of days later, walking around, that there was a box on a pile of trash out on the side of the street. And on top of that, on that box, that was a USDA sticker.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I was surprised that that we were exporting food to them, but that's good. I also saw in both in Remedios and in Kamawani, a large bag of rice, and big letters on it was Cowboy Rice, made in USA. So, some of our food is getting into Cuba. I thought that there was a larger attendance at this Sunday morning worship service than at any other Sunday that I have been there, which I thought was an encouraging sign. They had a work day on Saturday in which they were making decorations for the new sanctuary. And they had a pretty good turnout for that. They were working hard on their new sanctuary. And we're hoping to have it where they could use it by the first week in August. And that's Randy mentioned Miles Park going down. That's the reason that Miles Park timed their visit so that they could worship with them in the reopened sanctuary. Miles Park put up a great deal of money, over $100,000, to help them rebuild that sanctuary. And they did celebrate worship in the sanctuary at I think it's the second Sunday in August. That coincided with the 120th anniversary of the church's founding in Remedios. So that was two reasons to celebrate. While we were there, they had a big street party in Remedios, and that was to celebrate the 507th anniversary of the founding of Remedios. So there's a lot going on. We did not experience any blackouts while we were there. We were told they had some, but while we were there, we didn't. That's about all I can say there. Winter Park, we don't have any word from Santa Clara right now, unfortunately, with Mary not attending. Hopefully we can make contact with somebody else at the Winter Park Church and get a
There-
representative there.
There were several people who had been involved with our trips a couple of years ago from Winter Park.
Yeah.
Kathy Mess. Is Kathy and her aunt,
I met them.
pardon?
I met them when we went.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And I thought there was someone else, but anyway, we have to try to reach out and see if,
yeah. Yeah, I think that they were trying to go in June, but I kind of backed out right at the last minute. So yeah, hopefully we still have a group there, a mission committee there that is interested in going back to Cuba.
is that Kathy Peterson or Kathy Masticelli? One of them goes to Winter, one of them is at First to Land, I think. But, oh, well, never mind.
Okay. So to kind of sum it up, Randy mentioned that that they needed Kyle Barine no longer had a partner from Central Florida, and they very much wanted to have one. They expressed interest to me in that Sawala Grande and Calabasar did not have partners, and that they would really like for us to try to find partners for those three churches. We did have one problem that arose among the group that went to Remedios. One of the people was insensitive to the situations there. He made some comments about there's a better way to do what you're doing, and got a little too involved in political issues, being critical of the government. He brought up the protest of last year and tried to encourage them to do more of that, which was really out of line. And kind of the big problem was that at the end, we had a little meeting with some members of their session, and he made some critical comments to the pastor about his style, which was totally out of place. I had to call him down. I don't know how far he would have gone with that, but so when we're in Cuba, we all need to be very careful of what we say. Remember, we're there to provide support and to give hope and do what we can to help, but we're not there to criticize, to get politically involved. It's just not part of the trip. And we have to emphasize that, I think, when we do our orientation meetings for the next trip.
And do we want to, this person has been spoken to since we arrived back home, and it was serious enough that the El Centro leadership said that he will not be granted a religious visa to return. And he was told, so they felt very strongly that this was
Yeah.
so that just it's very, because the churches can get into severe
Yes.
trouble. They're hosting someone who's encouraging protests. That is very dangerous for the church. So we are very saddened about that. And I think Ken or Randy spoke to the person and explained the situation, but we will just
I have not been able to speak to him yet.
Oh.
Um,
Okay,
I have left several phone messages for him to call me, and he's not returned those calls. So I prefer to talk to him, but I'm kind of resolved now that I'm gonna have to just write an email. He's always responding to my email, so I will have to just put it in print and send that to him that way. But I do think he should know that, just how strongly they feel about things he said.
I think we're blessed that we have not had a situation like that before in all of our trips. This is the first time we've run into one this serious.
Yeah,
Run into one, so.
Yeah.
It really is an anomaly, and I think El Centro realizes that too.
yes. Okay. Okay, I am preparing to speak at the Presbyterian meeting and give a summary of the trip to the meeting as well. And that would probably be a good time to speak, to make a pitch for donations. I have sent a written report to Cheryl Carson to put in to publish in her email blast. She hasn't done that yet. So
I think you need to remind her, sometimes when things come in real early,
yeah,
they can get lost in inboxes. That does need to go on the email blast. And did we ask her to put it on the webpage as well?
I have not seen it there.
Okay, did you ask her to?
I don't check the webpage very often, but I have been there at least once this month, and I didn't see anything there.
Okay, well, remind her for both. It's important. It's important, but I don't think she is deliberately neglecting you. But sometimes a general reminder will help.
Okay, I will do that.
And it's very close to the time when she's gonna be sending out. She just sent out an email saying when she needed, what the deadline was for the next monthly newsletter. It's very close, so it's good timing to send it to her now.
Okay, I'll try to do that this afternoon.
Thanks.
Okay.
You're going to take the report at the Presbyterian meeting on the 13th?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I have asked Olga for time to speak,
Mhm.
and unless somebody else would prefer to do it, I just thought since I was on the trip that I would be the one to report on the trip. Okay. Randy talked a little bit about advocacy when he was speaking earlier. Larry Cuthill, who is supposed to be our advocacy person, is not here. The big need that they need that we can help them with is it's the fire situation at the fuel depot in Matanzas. And if you are getting those email notices from the Cuba Partnership Network, you'll have a address and information to make contributions.
Actually, there's a link. All you got to do is click on it and you go immediately to the location of how you can contribute to this specific account with PDA.
Okay. And if anybody doesn't get those, then let Randy know, or he can help you to get signed up on that list.
I'll try to add that information to the minutes too.
Okay.
Okay.
That's I get them, and there's always some good information there. It keeps you up to date on what's going on in Cuba. Okay, the next item will be to begin talking about the next trip. It is getting close to 1:30, so we're pushing our time, but I think we should begin the planning. We should pick a date and then get that approved by the Cubans. The only thing I saw with conflict would be the trip that was mentioned earlier in February, which is the group from New York.
Well, And the,
Baltimore trip, which we don't have date for.
right. However, we have discussed with Baltimore, kind of, we were talking with them about the first or second week of March. And I guess I'm just wondering, do we want to go ahead and just pick a date and let Baltimore know this is when we want to do it? Because that they haven't made any decisions yet.
Yeah.
And, the dates, were we talking about, was it the 1st through the 9th? Is that the date, Pat and Ken and Kathy, we had talked about of March? A Wednesday to a Thursday, or was it a Thursday to a Friday? What did we talk about?
We've typically gone down Wednesday through Thursday. The problem with coming back on Friday is traffic
Okay,
if we're driving. And even if you're not driving, the airports are usually busier.
so I recommend March 1 to March 9.
Hey, do we need that long without an encuentro?
Well, that's a good question, particularly since we can fly into Santa Clara
Yes.
rather than Havana. And so we don't have an overnight need in Havana. But remember, more than likely, we will have, probably, somewhere they're going to want to meet with us,
Mhm.
as many people as can be there. And maybe that's, just at Caneep, or something such as that.
I think if we can fly into Santa Clara and we don't have an encuentro, I think we could easily make it the 1st through the 8th. And that because the 1st is a travel day, the 8th is a travel day. And that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That really gives it 6. You could either make it through the 7th or the 8th.
Well, let me ask you, is it
I would like the 8th because I'm visiting 2 churches. And it'd be great to have 3 days at both churches instead of 2.5 here and 2 there and 1 there or something like that, which we usually end up doing.
well, rather than the middle of the week, what about the 2nd to the 9th, a Thursday to a Thursday? Because for some people who work, it just makes it a little bit more, and that's the reason I'd said a Friday, but I understand, what you're saying, because, for some people, they would prefer like a 3rd to the 10th.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to take off as much time. But if traveling on a Friday is just bad, I would recommend then the 2nd through the 9th.
Yeah, we deliberately made our last trip come back on a Friday to accommodate the people who had asked for it. And the general feedback was it wasn't worth it. So yeah,
Okay.
I think Thursday to Thursday would be fine. Thursday's usually a good day to fly.
Okay. So
2nd through 9th.
does that work for everyone?
It's fine with me.
Okay.
And
Then,
that turns out to be that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full days at one church, or if we have bringing visitors down 2 churches, we might want to inquire early on if there are people who would want to fly back on the 6th or the 7th. And because it wouldn't be a lot of effort to get them to Santa Clara if we did that. But I like the 1 through 8, 2 through 9, I'm sorry.
if that's when we want to do it, I'll go ahead and notify Baltimore Press that that's when we would like to do ours.
Now, we'll be gone. The first Presbyterian meeting is usually the first Saturday in March. That's the Saturday Presbyterian meeting, but that's okay. Not that many of us.
Oh,
Randy,
No.
when you say Baltimore, are you talking about First of Franklin?
no, I'm talking about the entire presbytery.
During Encuentro.
which includes, I mean, that church is in Baltimore Pres, but they are planning a presbytery-wide trip, and they want to do an Encuentro. They haven't set any dates yet,
Okay.
but we had put them on notice that we were looking at the first or second week in March. We asked them if they wanted to do an Encuentro, and they said they would. And the leadership of El Centro has told us in a nice way that doing 2 of them within a short period of time is too much for them. And so therefore going, doing, we have one year, Baltimore the next, and so on. And as I said earlier, since we had ours, we had the one most recently in January or February of 2020. Baltimore hasn't had one since 2019. We really need to give them the opportunity to have that. They've had their partnership for over 20 years. And so we want to be respectful of that.
Okay. The reason I ask is 2 of the member, with this last one, trip we took, there were 3 of us from First Pres, but we had Sorrel Ann and her nephew from New York, and we had Betty Schroll and David from First of Franklin and Baltimore. And Tawasco maxes out at 7.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Well, if we get dibs, we get dibs.
I think we can get 7 from First to Land easily.
Yeah, okay. I'm in.
Yeah, okay. Now, Sorrel Ann told me that they told her to limit the size of her trip in February to between 7 and 11. So I don't know where the others come from, but yeah, she's already got that set up with them.
Well, they only have 7 beds, so
Okay.
I don't know where they're gonna sleep the other 4 people.
Well, when Ron and Susan and Fred and I went, we stayed at a hotel down on the corner.
Yeah.
With no water. Yeah.
Anyway, that's up to the church there, as to how they will accommodate that.
Well, Randy, why don't you send those dates to Deb and Keith? And if they come back and say, oh, we just decided in the last week, that's when we're going, we can reschedule. But if they haven't decided, as you said, you've sent them numerous emails, and they, if we can give them this, I don't think that'll be a problem. They'll either tell us yes or no.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
what yes. And should we go ahead and notify the Cubans of our plans, of our date?
Let's wait till I hear back from Deb.
Okay.
I'll let you know. And of course, I'll be copying Pat, Ken and Kathy on that email.
Yeah.
As part of the leadership team. So
They should get back to us within a week,
yeah.
and that's plenty of time to let Elsa
Right.
know.
Okay. Anything further we want to do about the trip? I suggest that we divide the various responsibilities up among us so that no one's trying to do it all. Do we want to designate a leader, or just let the committee take
Let's
the
let
lead?
the committee, that's where we get the date, and then we can start working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we
I
can
think that's a good idea.
divvy up the,
And let me just add to those of us who have led Presbytery-wide trips, and I think there are 3 of us here, Pat, Ken, and myself, who have led the trips. Having someone new taking a leadership role in organizing the trip would be greatly, greatly appreciated. It's not a small amount of work, but if you have at least 2 people working together, You know, that's how we've done it in the past. It's worked out very well.
Mhm.
But we need other people other than Ken, Pat, or myself taking a leadership role on these trips.
As long as there's at least one, I'm sure you can get, I'm sure Ken and I will both be able to help in some extent. We have a third person to be an easy way to get your feet wet without being overwhelmed.
Right.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to volunteer, that would be greatly appreciated.
So, okay, if anybody wants to think it over and then let us know.
Since no one raised their hand.
Yeah.
All right, then.
We still got time to appreciate volunteers.
And people supposed to go home and check their calendars too. There may be things going on and.
Okay, is there anything else that we need to bring up at the meeting?
Yes, two
Okay.
things. Two things. One, the business meeting with El Centro Pres, you know, there's been various discussion, you know, about what to do there. You all, I mean, Ken and Kathy and Pat, I think you received the email from Deb as well. You know, from a week ago, something like that.
Mhm.
You all want to comment on this? I
Is
don't
this
have it.
what she said that they were gonna try to have it after the gathering?
Yeah, but then she was talking about something, you know, maybe in January or something like that, and just doing it by, you know, Zoom. Yeah,
I think a Zoom, business meeting by Zoom would be extremely difficult. We've done it in January before, and with our trip not being until March, that's not, one or two of us could go down there, probably.
well, I mean, if I'm going down in March, I wouldn't be able to do an additional,
Mhm.
you know, trip because I'm also going in November.
Yeah, right. You would not be able to.
No,
Um,
but okay, we're flexible. I mean, but she actually asked us to take a leadership role in putting this together. That's what she asked us to do in the email.
Okay, I missed that. All
They've
right.
always taken the leadership role in the past, and they
Yes.
asked us to do it.
Well, it would seem like we either do a Zoom early in the year, like January, or if we're gonna try to get together face to face, then we got to put it off at least a couple of months after March. That's getting into the summer.
You know, if we did it, if we tried to do it by Zoom, we might be able to do it if we set up two or three separate meetings, tightly controlled, maybe 2 hours each with particular agendas. That would be the only way I think a Zoom would work. Do it in pieces. So we can talk
Okay.
about that one. I think it needs to be early in the year because this is where
Right.
ideally it's late in this year. Ideally November is a really great time to do it because we see their budget plan for next year. But we've done it in January before. If we were going to put it off until the summer, that would
No.
almost have to be planning for 2024 rather than 2023.
Yeah. I think we need to do it early in the year somehow. So I think that's an interesting idea, Pat, of 2 or 3 separate, you know, and as you say, tightly controlled, you know, meetings, not as good as face-to-face, and maybe we go back to a face-to-face, you know, later in 2023 or something like that. But for right now, for this one, I like that idea.
And we could space them out over a 2-week period.
Right.
So we're
I
not
like
doing
that.
2 days, 3 days in a row.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Vanny, you said you had two things to bring up?
Yeah, the other one is I just wanted to make sure you all know that Jose Manuel and Ville Marie, the regional liaisons for the Caribbean, will be in our presbytery in December. They will be speaking at the December presbytery meeting for 20 minutes. The day before, they'll be leading a workshop at Eredentor for this. So This is going to be looking at December 6th is the Presbytery meeting, a Tuesday. Now, the location hasn't been set yet, as far as I know, but the workshop at Eredentor will be from approximately 1:30 to 3 o'clock on Monday, December 5th. Jose Manuel will be filling the pulpit at Eredentor on the Sunday. Bill Marie will be filling the pulpit at Graceway. We will start promoting this after the next Presbytery meeting. They're going to be at the workshop. They'll obviously be talking about, Cuba and our partnership, but they're also going to be talking about world mission, working with Jose Manuel and Ville Marie to talk about, what will be addressed during the workshop. So they'll be arriving on Saturday. They'll be here for 3 nights. I think it's interesting to note that Jose Manuel, who is a pastor, and he and Ville Marie are originally from Puerto Rico. Jose Manuel and the pastor at Eredentor went to seminary together. So there is a real friendship, between them. We were able to get $1,200 of financial support from the Mission Development Committee out of their funds to support this trip, to pay for hotel room and transportation costs, and the event at El Redentor. That's it.
Okay.
So it's going to be in person at El Redentor, and I really hope all of you will encourage people to attend. I mean, having a good attendance at that workshop on Monday, I think is important. And so encouraging people from our churches, from, not just our church, but, strongly encouraging the, our members, Cuba partnership team to attend. It's important for us as leaders within the Cuba partnership team, to be there. Getting a good contingent from First to Land, for example, would be wonderful.
Good.
And that was December.
That the workshop is on Monday, December 5th at Eredentor. And as I said, approximately 1 to 3. Maybe 12:30 to 3, it hasn't been, and then there'll be time for, refreshments and all that, afterwards. Just to, you'll have the opportunity just to talk with them some also.
Okay.
They are, let me tell you, they are dynamic. Ville Marie was the moderator, General Assembly moderator in 2018, co-moderator. She's a ruling elder. So they are going to be and are of tremendous value as the regional liaisons for the Caribbean.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Would someone volunteer to close us with a prayer?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
Randy, thank you.
Dear Lord, you provide us such incredible guidance and wisdom. And Lord, the situation in Cuba that they are dealing with is so difficult. Lord, we ask you to be with them, guard, guide, and protect their hearts and their minds, give them what they need, and help us to know how we can deepen our relationship and how valuable this relationship is to them and to us. All this we ask in your name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Thank you, everybody else. Thank
Okay.
you for doing the minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Uh-huh.
There.
Bye.
Well, good meeting, long but good. Thanks for sticking with us.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop the recording.